Well, hey everybody, and welcome to episode 30 of the Pixar Post Podcast. As usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And in this episode, we're going to have our continuation of the Pixar Post Pipeline Project as we chat with Mahyar Abousaeedi in the layout department. We're also going to chat about the big San Diego Comic-Con news of Toy Story That Time Forgot and a whole bunch more there. We're also going to cover some of the basic items from our website this week, a little bit on Lego WALL-E, and a few more things. So what do you say we get started?
Yes.
That's great. So a couple things that we wanted to talk about from our website right off the bat was for the book club. One of the suggestions that we had come in was that, it seems like it could get lost on the site as far as where they are, or on the forum. It's a piece of the forum, and there's so much out there. So we wanted to set up, so now if you go to our homepage, just of course pixarpost.com, there's a book club button that's dedicated, and it talks about which book we're currently reading, where we are at, when we're going to be going through and doing the Google Hangout, all the different phases of the book club now. So it's just a little bit more organized, and then it'll guide you to there, from there to the forum, so that way you can dig in a little bit more if you want to start chatting about the book before the Google Hangout. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a good
really
change.
Really good suggestions, that come in and, help us too, because we're so involved, with our website. Sometimes we just need,
Sure.
An outsider's perspective.
Sure. Yeah, and one of the ones that we have been going back and forth on a lot.
Oh, goodness.
Was the gallery.
Since we started, so over 2 years ago now.
Right. Yeah, we never
loved it.
We never loved how, if you go to the fan art button, how it looked. And that's just based on the platform that we use for our website. So there was never a great way to display it. So we finally figured it out. So now if you go to the fan art /gallery button, you'll see a lot more. It's a much cleaner way to view it. All of the gallery posts will eventually link back to the article. So if you see the image of, for instance, young Mike Wazowski, if you go into that, you'll see that there's a button that you can click that'll say, like, hey, go back to our post and read more about it. And you can read about how we drew it, what it was for, and all those kind of things. But in addition to that, there's also going to be, we're kind of making the gallery portion of it our record, if you will, of official posters, screen art, screenshots, and other artwork that's released from Pixar. Like, so for instance, on the Toy Story That Time Forgot, we've already started that gallery, and it has the official poster that was revealed for it at San Diego Comic-Con, or just before it, by Mike Mignola, and then it also has the screenshot that they have released, the first official screenshot from the short, the special, I should say. So it's just going to be a little bit more clear, and then we've also got it, like, it goes into everything, like Disney Infinity. It's going to break down to all the character views and all the power discs and all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
so
it's really involved for us, but it's really exciting because once this is complete, it is going to be such, like, a treasure chest of knowledge and information, like just the screenshots, and then just to link back to the, sites and articles on our site. It is amazing. So
yeah, we spent a lot of time setting it up.
Kudos for TJ, because he's been up a couple sleepless nights working on this.
Yeah, trying to program it, just figure out different ways to get it to look like it was still part of our site. Because So anyways, it is going to be a nice thing to have a catalog of all of the movies, and we're going to put all the dates in there as well. So it'll be, if you go to the Toy Story one, it'll talk about, here's the day that Toy Story was released in theaters. We're going to add as much detail as we can, without going overboard, but just so that way there's a record of all of the visual gallery elements for these shorts and some of the toys, and we're going to be changing up some of that area too for our toy reviews and products and all that. So pretty exciting stuff. So definitely check it out. It's certainly in the infancy right now, and we're adding a little bit every day as we go. Speaking of websites and news, Angus MacLane, who is a Lego god, if you will.
A Lego aficionado, I would say.
All right. Yeah, even his Twitter profile says, he's at Pixar by day and a Lego builder by night.
Yes.
So he had the project that he started as part of, what was the site before? It was like Cusco or something like that. But it's now changed to Lego Ideas, which is where if you have an idea for a Lego that you've created and you want Lego to physically create it, you put it on their website, and if you get enough votes, Lego will actually take their internal team, analyze it, and if they feel like it's something that they can produce on a scale that's affordable and that people have interest in it, then absolutely it will get put forward.
Yes.
So he has been working for quite some time on a WALL-E. And when we first saw it, it was really cool. I mean, we were like, all right, we backed it right away. But over the last couple weeks, he really stepped it up.
Yeah, he's been changing things, and then the latest picture we saw is he showed what the sticker decals would look like. And I'm a Lego nut. Like, I love Legos, and I belong to the Lego VIP club, and I do the Lego builds just like how Angus did to have 10,000 votes for his WALL-E. I'm actually building some Pixar themed Legos myself in this Lego Builder program, and it's incredible. That all of a sudden, I think it was he was like almost 3,000, little less than 3,000 shy a week ago.
Right. Yeah, now today the news was that it passed the 10,000 mark, which is what's required for Lego to start taking a look at it.
Yeah, to review it. So it's in the review process.
Right, so that happened today. Like right now we're recording this, it's July 30th, or July 29th, but this is going to be revealed on out to everybody on July 30th. So it's the 29th when that passed the 10,000 mark. So definitely congrats to Angus on that.
I know.
And,
I really hope it gets made because, like, I want to buy so many of them.
Oh, I know. Like we already said, we have at least 3.
At least 3. At least.
I know, we're all over it. So, some of the changes that he made to it, though, besides the sticker decals, like you mentioned, he said in one of his updates he was looking at it, and it had been sitting there for a year, and the eye detail, all of a sudden he said, I wanted to rework around WALL-E's eyes to give it more personality, and it's amazing the simple changes that he made, but how much of an impact it made to the physical overall toy.
Right. Not only that, but he changed the neck, too.
Right.
Because the neck was originally yellow, and then it went to...
a gray.
Gray.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he made some definite changes, and then he also went around and took pictures of it around Pixar. He had Andrew Stanton holding it.
Which really showed the scale of it, and that was surprising. I know we were both like, oh my gosh, that's
we thought
bigger than it was.
Substantially smaller.
Yes.
And then once we saw it in Andrew Stanton's hand, we were like, wow. Like you said, the scale. Like it showed it off, and we finally were able to like get a bigger sense for it too. So then
I wanted it more when I saw the scale.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It just was, I don't know. It would be more, I guess, impactful sitting on a shelf.
Right.
Like, it's just, I don't know.
Of course. Yeah, you want to see WALL-E. You don't want him to be small. I mean, you want him to be like, WALL-E.
Right.
So we're very excited about it. So are any of you guys?
Yeah,
let
us know.
Yeah, let us know. Are you a nut? Are you planning on getting a WALL-E when this comes out? Be interested to see. And obviously the other big news that came up over the last week was at San Diego Comic-Con, which took place on July 24th. Well, actually, the Pixar panel at San Diego Comic-Con took place on the 24th, was for Toy Story That Time Forgot. But before we dig into that a little bit, we want to talk about some of the merchandise that came out.
Yes.
And I know you were pretty excited about you thought like some of those vinyls that came out were really cool.
Oh, the Vinylmations were really neat.
So what were they?
Okay, there were 6 of them that were going to be a limited edition. I think 480 a piece.
Yep.
Or not price-wise, but limited edition of 480 units per character.
Right.
And it was Chef Skinner.
Yep.
Let's see. Was there Zurg?
There was. Let's see if you can get all of them.
Stinky Pete?
Yes.
Randall?
Yes.
Ooh.
2 more.
Hopper?
Yes.
And...
Can it happen?
I
think Incredibles.
Oh, Incrediboy.
There you go.
That's 5 out of 6 isn't bad.
So it's part of a Pixar Villains series, and that's the only place that you get those 6 of them, but what's coming after that as well?
Yeah, the Series 2 is launching, it's the end of August. I think it's August 18th.
August 18th, mid-August.
Yeah, mid-August. At the Disney Store, and there's going to be 8 new ones.
Right, so that's Charles Muntz, Mordu, Henry Waternoose, Syndrome, Darla, Dean Abigail Hardscrabble, and Thumper from Bug's Life, as well as a Mystery Chaser. So you had a thought on the Mystery Chaser. What did you think it was going to be?
I think it's going to be Sid from Toy Story.
You're hoping.
I'm hoping.
Yeah, you're hoping that it's going to be that. But what was interesting is that Giovanni on the forums pointed out that he thinks it's going to be more of a Cars character.
Which would be really neat.
He thought it would be cool if it was like Chicks Hicks, Miles Axelrod, or Professor Z or something like that. So I thought that was a really good idea.
Professor Z.
That'd be fun.
That would be neat.
Yeah. So why did you think Sid, though? Like, what made you come up with that one?
I mean, I think he was a villain in the first one. I mean, as villain as...
Yeah, he was a villain in the first one.
And
yeah.
I don't know. I just think that it would be fitting to have Sid.
Okay, so we also had this discussion since you did which nobody could see the air quotes when you said as much as Sid can be a villain, but talk about Hardscrabble.
I mean, I understand that a lot of people thought that, Dean Hardscrabble was a villain or villain-ish in the movie. I don't think she's a villain. I think she was headstrong in the movie.
Right.
And I don't think that should be construed as she was a bad guy, because she wasn't.
Right. Well, we actually talked about it a little bit on the forum, and a couple other readers jumped in with their opinions as well. And the general consensus seems to be among certainly the Vinylmation series and some of the other toys, how they position them, is that how a villain is defined is it's more of a roadblock to a character.
Right.
Like Darla's not a villain either,
right.
But she's a roadblock. She gets in the way of, their big plan that the tank gang had because they pull Nemo out of there and gonna give it to Darla.
Right.
Which then he has to improvise, play dead, go down the drain, try to get to the, ocean and all that kind of stuff.
I guess I just don't see Dean Hardscrabble as like a Stinky Pete or a Mordew. When you think of villains, but yes,
she's a roadblock.
When you think of roadblocks, for sure.
Right. But it turns out that it was, it obviously all worked out for Mike and Sully. So she was a roadblock, but was it a roadblock that was necessary for their success? Was it necessary for them to work their way up from the bottom? Getting deep, I know. So anyways, that's the set that's going to be coming out again August 18th. And for people that have been looking on eBay for any of those 6 Vinylmation villains that were at San Diego Comic-Con, they're
very pricey.
Going for, if you want all 6, somewhere around $200 to $250 is like the average that they're going for right now. So yeah, so we're hoping that they come down a little bit because we'd like to get a couple of them, but we're not in it for $200.
No.
But we're certainly all about some of the ones for August 18th, and we talked about what our favorites were there.
And those will actually be in the blind box.
Right, those will be in the blind boxes. Yeah, you're right. We should have mentioned that the San Diego Comic-Cons weren't. They were. You could see which character it was, and I thought the packaging looked really cool on those too. Thought it was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So. Anyway, thought that was good to talk about. But some more merchandise, Pixar related, that was at San Diego Comic-Con was, of course, related to Toy Story That Time Forgot. And that was the poster that was revealed earlier in the week before San Diego Comic-Con. That panel started, that poster created by Mike Mignola, who is of Hellboy fame and other comics, and pretty much kind of a darker artist. And one of our forum readers actually dug up that Steve Purcell, who's the director of Toy Story That Time Forgot, was actually quoted on Wikipedia as being friends with Mike Mignola from an earlier project that they worked on before Steve was even at Pixar. So I thought that was really cool in case that was a throwback to...
Yeah, that's a deep cut right there, too.
Yeah, but I thought that was really cool. I thought that was like a really neat thing to find, and obviously we got to give it up to forum user Mac95 again, who's like the unofficial Toy Story That Time Forgot expert here, making that connection to
he's really excited about this. I think if there was one person who was like more excited than even us, it would be Mac95.
Right, yeah. All right, so in regards to the poster, it was actually a free giveaway for people that were actually attendees of the Pixar panel, which was comprised of Steve Purcell, obviously the director was there, Galen Sussman, who is the producer, also produced Toy Story of Terror, Derek Thompson, who's the head of story, Kristen Schaal, who voices Trixie, and the panel was moderated by Michael Giacchino, who, of course, is the famed composer who's done everything from The Incredibles to One Man Band to, as we've now learned, Toy Story That Time Forgot as well. But before we get into the panel itself, so the poster, it was signed by all of them. there are plenty of those that are popping up on eBay as well. Some signed, some not signed. It sounds like they might have had extra after they had left and were no longer signing. But there was also a Toy Story at the Time Forgot pin that was floating around out there. And it's not like, if you're a Disney pin collector, it's not like some of the ones where it's really detailed and it's got all the, it doesn't have characters on it or anything. It's just the logo, and it's almost like they just put like a gloss over the top of it.
Yeah, it's like one of the free pins that you would get, at any kind of fair or like convention kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, so as far as the panel now, so that's the merchandise that was Pixar related that was there. But as far as the panel, so the people that were there were lucky. They got to see 9 minutes of the 21-minute short screen. So they almost saw half of it. And it's going to be set up the same way as Toy Story of Terror was, where it's going to be broken into 3 acts. So it'll be, the beginning chunk, then commercial break, middle chunk, commercial break, ending. And it's going to be airing on December 2nd, which is a Tuesday of this year, and it's going to be airing at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm assuming that's probably 7 Central and then probably 8 o'clock again on the West Coast time. So we're not going to actually get into a ton of the details in regards to this, because right after the panel happened that day, we held a Google Hangout. And thanks to Dan, the Pixar fan, for jumping on with us as well and chatting. But we had a Google Hangout where we talked about all the news that was revealed from the day. And then the following day, after we held that Hangout, we still had a whole bunch of questions. We were all excited about it, going, what's coming next? What's coming next? And so the next day, Slash Film and HitFix, both of those websites, released their reviews of the event and some of the conversations that they had, and gave a lot more story details. So we got a great way to fill in some of those holes and some of those questions that we had. And then Dan and I summarized some of those in a post on the forum as well. So lots of details there. So certainly if you're looking for all of the details, if you want to really dig in on this, certainly head to our site. We'll, of course, put all this in the show notes. Again, this is episode 30. Just go to our website, click on the podcast tab, and then there you go. You can get to number 30. But lots and lots of details. And then finally, if you really want to watch the complete panel, I shouldn't say if you really want to watch, you should watch. The complete panel. Inside the Magic has actually uploaded that to his YouTube channel, which of course we link to from our site as well. So thank you to Ricky from Inside the Magic for recording that and getting that up there. So just as an overall view, and we're going to try not to get too spoilery, but if you're avoiding anything, then clearly just skip ahead to a couple minutes when we start the interview with Mahyar in the layout department. But just to give a high-level overview, so we know from the plot description before that the Toy Story gang, or some of the gang from Bonnie's collection, they go to one of Bonnie's friend's house for a play date after Christmas, and the play date is with a boy named Mason. And they've got all their toys over there. She brought a whole bunch of her toys, and then he has his haul from Christmas as well. And they get distracted by an interactive toy, a new interactive toy. So they leave the room. At this point, Rex and Trixie get captured by the Battlesores, which is this full-fledged line, a toy line of dinosaur toys.
Like a dinosaur army.
Yes, it is so cool. It is so cool. I mean, like, Pixar said that before they did anything with the story itself of the short, they spent the time to generate and write the story for what this toy line would be. So they created, like, a fake commercial. They created...
which they've done with Toy Story 3 characters. Remember Lotso? They created a... old vintage commercial for him.
Yeah, that was so cool.
80s inspired.
Right, and we're supposed to get actually something for that and we will get something for that on August 19th when Toy Story of Terror comes out on Blu-ray. There's going to be a commercial for Combat Carl.
Oh, that's right.
So there's going to be one of those there too.
I love that.
It's so cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, all the throwback stuff.
It just adds to it.
Yeah. So we're going to get a vintage, like a little commercial again for them. It's kind of like, based on like the He-Man, action figures back from the 80s where that was like the toy line was like the big deal. And so these Battlesores, their planet was essentially hit by these Zeta rays and they're trying to stay alive now. So they're battling to stay alive and they feel like they have to listen to this far off distant voice that says time to battle, and so then they have to go into this ring and start fighting. So Trixie and Rex get captured by these delusional dinosaur toys, these action figures, and then they, essentially that's when the chaos ensues. We know at some point Buzz and Woody get suited up for battle as well. Woody's got his crayon that he uses as like a weapon. So it seems like it's going to be pretty fun. What did, like, after you heard about it, what was your initial thought?
I'm excited because I love dinosaurs.
Okay. Even though they're battling dinosaurs?
Yes.
I'm just asking.
They're the best kind.
Oh, okay. I figured you like the leaf eaters.
No, it's
like
all
Lex.
about the T-Rex and the
I figured
Velociraptor.
like in Lex in Jurassic Park.
Oh, no.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I know you like the T-Rexes.
I know you do. Yeah, I'm really excited because I think it's going to be different from Toy Story of Terror. It's just going to be, I think this one's going to be a lot more fun. I mean, even though they're battling, I just think it's going to be a lot.
Like there's going to be lots of comic relief?
Not so much. I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be fun. Like, it has me really excited.
Sure. Well, it's based around, obviously, toys, and that's what Toy Story is. But, I mean, like, it's cool that they're introducing this whole new line.
Right. And when I saw the screenshot of the dinosaurs with their little spears, I was like, oh, my goodness. Like, I need these toys. Raptorian guards that were all facing the Toy Story gang after Bonnie obviously leaves the room. And it's perfect because you and I had that discussion where the new toys are shiny and new, no scuffs.
Right, and you can see in the screenshot that they look newer.
They look brand new out of the packaging that morning.
Right, and if you see Trixie,
look at Trixie and Rex, I mean,
right, she's got like wear on her horn that comes out of the top of her head, and yeah, we were talking about that. Like even all their spears, they're like still pristine and all that kind of stuff. We thought that was a cool detail. You're right, I didn't even think to bring that up, so I'm glad you remembered that one.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, Toy Story of Terror was so good, but it was still kind of like, ooh, spooky. It was still fun because you have
ooh, spooky.
Well, because you have prickle pants. Well, the bathroom scene was a little like that was, I mean, it was so good, it was so real, but it had that intense.
Oh, you're talking about where Jesse's in the tub and then Mr. Jones is coming,
and you don't know.
Even the lead up to that.
Yes.
Where she's under the sink with Combat Carl and he's like, shh, did you hear that? And then the thing of soap falls off and twirls around on the floor.
That was like intense. And I feel like this one won't be, like, it could be, I guess, as intense, but I just feel like it will have a little bit, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Fun.
I think you're right because now that I think about it, we know going in that these toys are delusional. So it's going to be an element of like Buzz when he was brand new. He was delusional. He thought he was still
Spanish Buzz.
Or Spanish Buzz. One of the ultimate characters. Yeah, so I think it's going to be fun because we're going to be able to know, we're in the know that they're already delusional. So we're going to see all the stuff that they're doing. And
there's not only the reptilian guards, but there's the other dinosaurs. Gosh, what were they called? Started with a C. They look like the Skeksis from...
Oh, that's the cleric. There's one.
Okay, the cleric, yeah. And that looks like the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal, very Jim Henson.
Right, absolutely.
So I feel like there's all these different characters.
Right, there's a whole line.
They're all delusional with each other, and then you're gonna have like the Toy Story gang, and I don't know, I just feel like
it's gonna be a nice pairing.
Yeah.
So we've got the cleric that you mentioned. We know about Reptilis Maximus, the cleric, by the way, is like the top of the chain as far as the battle soars. Reptilis Maximus is the leader of the fighters. Raygon is a scientist who has opposable thumbs, and he outfits the battle soars. He has 2 brains, opposable thumbs, robotic opposable thumbs, and he outfits the battle soars with their armor that they use to fight. There's the Raptorian guards that we talked about, and the Elysian guards, who are the female guards as well. And then there's the Outland brutes as well, which they've got all these other kind of crazy things as part of them. All right, and just as an interesting side note about the characters, since we were mentioning them, the cleric is voiced by the director Steve Purcell, and he also voiced a character in Brave as well, which was...
The Crow.
The Crow. He said the Crow. So yes, he voiced the Crow that was obviously with the witch in the witch's hut. When Merida first gets the spell that she puts and turns everybody into the bears. Not that we need to be talking about Brave again. But anyway, so I thought that was a really kind of interesting side note that he's voicing birds and birds and birds, like because the cleric is kind of like
bird-like, yeah.
Yeah,
bird-like dinosaur.
Right.
So I have a question.
Okay.
And I want to know what our listeners think about this.
Okay.
I want to know who and if people think if Peter Sohn will be voicing a character in Toy Story The Time Forgot.
I just sat back on that one. You couldn't see it on listening on the podcast, but I just sat back. Yes, where is Peter Sohn, and is Peter Sohn going to fit into this?
Will he be voicing a character in this short/special, or is he not going to be in? Because he has been in so many lately. He's got to be in it.
So give an idea of Peter Sohn for people that may not know listening.
He directed Partly Cloudy.
Okay.
He was the voice of Squishy.
Okay.
He was the voice of Transitron.
From Toy Story of Terror.
Yeah, he's done so many.
He was Recycle Ben.
He was Recycle Ben.
In Small Fry. He also did a meal in Ratatouille. Mm-hmm. I mean, the list goes on
and on.
But so, yeah, you're right. It'll be interesting to see if he finds a way into this one. I mean, Transitron, they obviously changed his voice, and unless you really saw it in the credits, you wouldn't know.
But still, he was a little part. He was
absolutely.
Part of it. So
I wonder if he'll be one of the dinosaurs.
It makes me feel like there's going to be one of the, the guard dinosaurs that might be like a little off. And I feel like his voice could be perfect for a dinosaur that would be like just a little off, or maybe like a little.
You hear that, Peter Sohn? Julie thinks you're a little off.
No, it'd be like kind of too friendly. Like wants to.
You're right. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Isn't as quite delusional.
You're right. He's not playing the guard role as sternly.
Yeah, because his voice is so warm, and I just feel like he would be kind of like
warm, fun, and youthful.
Yeah, like, oh, Trixie, it's okay, or
right.
Rex.
Oh, it's okay, you can come through here.
I'm your buddy.
Right, yeah.
At least I'm hoping.
All right, my question back to you. Ratzenberger, John Ratzenberger, will he voice a character in this?
I do think Ham will make an appearance.
Okay, because you remember Toy Story of Terror, Ham was originally in it, but...
Hit the cutting room floor.
Right. So... it ought to be interesting to see.
I do. I mean, it could be another quick cameo, but I do think that he will make an appearance. Okay, perfect.
So I think that, that kind of covers some of the basics from the panel. I think, we'll let the rest of the material speak for itself. You can head to our site, watch the full panel. You can read all of our discussions and look through all the pictures that we had, cultivated from the day as well. So, good?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we're excited now because we can jump into the continuation of the Pixar Pipeline Project, where we talk with Mahyar Abousaeedi of the layout department at Pixar. And so obviously, again, for anybody that hasn't heard this yet, we wanted to get an idea of some of the major departments that once a film gets the green light, who are the departments that touch a film before we see it on the screen. So we started out interviewing Louis Gonzalez in the story department. Then we talked to Chloe Klosman from the editing department. We talked with Craig Foster as part of the art department. Now we're talking to Mahyar as part of the layout department. So we're excited to bring you this interview, and I can't wait for everybody to hear it. As with all the people that we've talked to thus far, it's all about the passion, and you'll certainly hear that in Mahyar's discussion about a day in the life for a layout artist and all that kind of. So let's just get into it, and then we'll chat on the backside. Thanks for chatting with us, Mahyar, today. And the first thing that we're really interested in with the layout department is if you could fill us in and a little bit of what the day-to-day operations look like for you in layout, because I feel like so often as people talk about Pixar, the first thing they don't think of is layout quite often unless they are in the animation industry or have some more information on it. So fill us in at just a base level of what a day in the life looks like for you.
So yeah, the layout department here it's fairly small. I think it's about 20, 25 people. And I think an average day for us is waiting for a story to get locked for production. And what that basically means is the director has worked with the story team and feels like this is ready to move into the next phase, which is us, right after story. And what we'll do is sit down, the layout artist will sit down with the director and basically, and the director of photography, and kind of discuss an approach to how we should shoot a sequence. and kind of what, talk about the film grammar, what the major points of this particular sequence is. It could be whatever, 50, 100 shots. And what every typical artist is doing then is going back and starting to explore the location, the set, the types of cameras, what kind of big story beats should we be working up towards, what is a climactic moment of the set and of the story. And then they're really working with it's the camera and staging. So it's the relationship of the characters in that shot and how they relate to the camera from shot to shot, so that we're really telling kind of a cohesive story and supporting the emotions that are evident in that sequence as well.
Wow, look at that. that is a day in the life. Yeah.
The funny thing about being in layout is you really, because you're one of the first departments that is bringing in so many assets from different departments, because you're kind of organizing as you're creating the shots, because the shots don't exist. Everything's been drawn up until now, right? So once we get it into layout, we're bringing in the characters that the character team has developed. The set, the set team has put together an environment in a building that we're staging our characters in. In some cases, we're working with lighting just to get some mood in there initially too.
Okay.
And so, it's the first time that really some of these departments have seen any of their assets together in context to each other.
Sure.
Oh, that's
So it just feels like a typical day for a layout artist is really trying to organize a lot of ideas while still keeping the main focus on the camera and the staging. So
okay, yeah, and you had mentioned that you work with the director of photography in regards to how you're going to shoot the scene, if you will.
Yeah.
But with so obviously I'm assuming that gives you a direction, but with the freedom to essentially place the camera anywhere in the scene, obviously with live action, you're restricted to where the crane is or, this direction. But does that freedom does that allow more options, or does that almost overwhelm? How does that typically look when you sit down and you start looking at this?
So I guess, yeah, with computer animation, it feels like you could put the camera anywhere. Why not do that, right? And it feels like you could probably move it anywhere because it doesn't have the limitations of live action. So I think that what we really are trying to do is kind of make sure the camera work that we're doing is actually, the irony is if that we do our job well, it's invisible to you, the audience.
Absolutely.
Right? We don't want to be distracting you with this camera move, and then you're actually not focused on the characters in the moment or some emotion that a character is feeling. So I think one of the biggest rules that we'll kind of come up with the director or the DP is basically, what are the limitations of this world, right?
Okay.
Because I think that, yeah, you can do anything in this environment, but you probably shouldn't.
Right. Yeah, like most things in life, it's like you can do certain things, but you don't need to. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I there's absolutely room for experimentation, and we want to develop a language that's appropriate to this character, but at the same time, we're always trying to just support the story and the emotional moment and not distract from it, so that I think that, something potentially can feel real to the audience, not necessarily because the camera is doing something that emulates something real, but more so because you're connecting to that character at that moment. Mm-hmm. And maybe if we push the camera in a little bit, or maybe if we pull out, or maybe if we just slightly arc around, it just exaggerates that moment just a little bit more without pulling you out of it and saying, oh, the camera's moving.
It's really cool hearing this too, because I guess that makes sense in live action as well, but from all the different departments across the board, they're all trying to find that little way, whether it be from the lighting cues or whatever it is, that they're trying to enhance that story element or that character's viewpoint at that time. So it's really interesting to hear that. So that's great.
Yeah, TJ, and that's what we're working pretty closely with these other departments too. When we come up with a camera plan for the movie early on, we kind of are checking in with lighting and art and, what is the production design? What are the themes for production design? What does that mean to camera? What what keywords can we use, just generally speaking. If diagonals in the third act seem like a sign of danger, what can we do with the camera? Maybe we roll, or maybe we don't roll so that you do feel it, It's kind of like working with these other departments as well, to make sure that, because we're all, at the end of the film, it's touching all these departments, so we're all trying to bring it together to really support that moment.
Absolutely.
So speaking with you working with all of the different departments, can you describe or talk about your involvement or your interaction with the modeling department and how you, I guess, get those models and use them in your workflow?
Yeah. So we work really closely with the sets department, and in the sets department we have the modeling and the set dressers. And if we need, for example, on Up, we needed the house, right? The one that Carl is in Up. Well, proportions were kind of a big deal. When we were inside the house, we needed it to feel like you were inside a regular sized room. And when we were outside, we didn't want the house to feel too big. It still needed to feel small. And so I remember working very closely with the modeler on that, in the sense that she was creating this house and we were shooting location scouts on the inside to make sure that the space felt good for the director, for the emotional, for the moments that he was hoping to stage in there, yet it didn't feel too big, so that when we came out, that, it felt like there was a giant house on balloons and you wouldn't believe that this thing could float, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great trick there that you guys had. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I didn't
balance of having to make it be somewhat reasonable sized on the outside, yet still
cozy and
but not too tight on the inside.
Right. So there were great tricks that the set team kind of came up with without like creating a lot of work. In the sense of, someone mentioned, why don't we create two houses, one for inside, one for outside? And it was like, nobody wanted to do that. It was twice as much work. So, for example, we're inside, we kind of hide the kitchen. So you don't really see the kitchen, but when you're outside, you don't really notice that the kitchen room isn't there, for example. So
okay. Yep.
It's just little tricks that we work with the modeling department. So yeah, we work pretty closely with them, especially if we're trying to stage action in some kind of a space, and we either need more room or less room, or we need something moved. So
that's great. That's great. You mentioned Up, obviously. You worked on Ratatouille, Up, Toy Story 3, Cars 2, and you mentioned that really kind of cool, challenging moment from Up. But were there, of those movies that you worked on, and I think you worked on, Doug's Special Mission as well?
Oh, yeah, that was very briefly I worked on that one.
Okay, yeah, but of those projects, was there one that was trickier to get the look and feel of the scene just right? And within one of those, was there a scene that was a large challenge that you guys had to figure out?
What comes to mind is on Up, there was that whole montage at the beginning we called Married Life.
Yep.
Which was, for me, pretty emotional the first time I saw it. You see Carl and Ellie kind of bond and go through life.
Wait, you mentioned it's pretty emotional the first time. It's emotional for everybody the first time they see that.
I know. We end up seeing this over and over and over again. I just will never forget the first time I saw it,
Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
No, yeah. Well, I'm glad it's working still. There was a scene, actually, I was working on in there, and it was when Ellie realizes that she's having some kind of pregnancy issue, whether, I never really asked Pete whether it was a miscarriage or she couldn't get pregnant. When I was looking at the storyboards, I just felt like this is a very personal moment for Ellie. And she's sitting on this front porch, which felt so public to me. I think this moment would be very private. And instead of staging her in the front, because a part of the layout job is kind of figuring out the camera and staging what is the best part of a set to shoot something. And so I thought, instead of putting her in this public place in the front, why don't we put her somewhere private in the backyard and next to something that represents life, like a tree. And so I definitely built the shots the way the director had first worked it out on the boards, because my biggest priority was, this is already working so great in storyboards. We just need to preserve this. But I just wanted to plus the moment if he felt it was appropriate. And we put it in the backyard, and it really created a nice intimate moment with like the light coming through the trees and and kind of her self-reflection back there as Carl looks out the side window, and Pete, he totally bought it, and we went that direction. It was a very satisfying moment for me, I guess.
Yeah. No, I can totally see that scene. I can visualize her with her
blowing.
Nose up in the air a little bit,
Yeah,
the wind
exactly.
blowing through her hair. Absolutely. Yeah, that was a very powerful moment.
Oh, cool.
I don't want to sound cheesy, but no joke, I have chills right now. So,
I do too.
Yeah. So also just kind of thinking about keeping skills up and those types of things, kind of shifting gears a little bit. In our discussion last month with Craig Foster, as well as when we talked to Louis Gonzalez and Story, they stressed, the importance of sketching and, always keeping your chops up, if you will.
Yeah.
So what are some of the ways in the layout department that you and, the others keep their skills fresh, if you will, so that way they're always bringing a good new perspective to the layout department?
Yeah, I think, we definitely in the layout department, we have a mix of people who've come from live action and then people who've just come from purely computer animation. And it seems like with both groups of people, photography is a big one. I know a lot of people go out and definitely shoot for fun. And filmmaking. A lot of the people in our department have actually directed their own shorts. And so I know in the last 5 years we've had a couple people who just take like a brief leave to kind of explore something they want to shoot, or that whether they're just shooting an idea or they're actually directing an idea that they have. I think it allows us, and it's really great that the culture allows these people to go out and kind of creatively express themselves personally, and then they'll learn something.
Absolutely.
And bring it back. And so I feel like it's different for everybody, but I think trying to keep our skills sometimes just means breaking away from the everyday and like applying those skills in a different context with different people, just working with people outside of the studio or, on these smaller projects can help.
Yeah, we've said that on multiple podcasts as well as we talk about, refreshing skills and keeping a fresh perspective. And it's so amazing and different to hear how Pixar does handle that with allowing so many employees to explore other opportunities, where so many other companies, if you think about, in the business world, if you will, there's always this stigma of you got to concentrate on this is your sole responsibility, this is your thing, and it's nice that there's that support there to allow that, like you said.
Yeah, it's been great. That's why I remember one of our friends, coworkers, went and shot a couple of features in between the last 6 years that he was working here, and what was amazing is this, like, he realized, even coming from a live action point of view, that he brought so much to that job just based on his experience here, because with animation you're able to shoot so much more than you can in live action because it's so expensive to set up and bring an actor. And he was really, I think it just worked both ways for him. It was very encouraging in both directions. So, and they have a PU, Pixar has like a PU. Every once in a while, someone here will pitch a short idea film, and then people at Pixar will get together and pick different positions on the film that they want to kind of learn. Right? Now,
when you say PU, is that the university?
It's called a Pixar University, and sometimes they'll have like a short film that they'll create, and it's kind of like a catalyst for people to come in and learn either how to edit or DP or gaff or
right. That's
some
great.
aspect of a live action shoot. So that's kind of fun too.
Well, and learning about all those different options as far as becoming a DP and those kind of things. One of the things that we always talk about as well is, some of the proprietary elements and software that is used within Pixar. Obviously with Presto, with the animation department, and some of the Avid plugins that they have in the editing. Is there a proprietary type software like that that's used within the layout department, or is it something that's used industry-wide?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely in layout and animation, we use a very similar software, which is called Presto, and it's a proprietary software that they wrote here at Pixar. It's not a commercial software, but basically is an ongoing kind of software that's supported by a tools department here, and it's actually a real pleasure to work in. Presto is maybe, I don't know, 4 years old now or 5 years old.
Right, yeah, switch over from Marionette.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's been a really fun software to kind of explore in the sense that I think it was designed, trying to keep production in mind as much as possible. And I switch between Maya and Presto every so often, and there are certain aspects of Presto that are just really, the animation controls in Presto are really fun to work in.
Yeah, I have to plead a little bit of ignorance. For some reason I should have thought about that Presto, knowing Presto and knowing of it, that I didn't even think that you just hear it in terms of animation. But yeah, I didn't even think about it. But of course, if you're laying out the scene, you're going to be laying out in the scene that they're going to be animating it in.
Exactly. And so we do touch a lot of the same tools that the animators use. They're just, they're totally taking it to a whole other level, and we're just trying to set it up in the sense that, they're working shot by shot. We work more sequence based.
Sure.
So yeah, they end up acquiring our setup, so to speak, our layout. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's get to know you a little bit. Describe, if you will, your journey to Pixar. When did you start? How you got there, and kind of how you navigated to being within the pearly gates, if you will.
Yeah, a lot of luck, I guess, in timing.
Okay.
I guess everyone says that, but it's true. But well, just to keep it short, I was in architecture, and for some reason had gotten this bug that I finally realized that it didn't have to just be other people that made films, that I could be a filmmaker. I was growing up in Colorado, and you just figured movies were made somewhere else.
Right.
And then when it occurred to me that I actually could do this for a living, I just had to kind of figure out a way to get there. It was like a weird epiphany. So I left architecture and I applied to film school, and went to a graduate program, and did 3 years of film school where you just made a short film every year in an animation program. And I was kind of lucky to have met a few folks in the layout department when I was down there, and I knew that I had a feeling that layout was this thing that I would really enjoy. And I think that in exploring my own short films, it seemed like I should try and apply to the layout positions at different studios, and it just worked out that Pixar was looking for somebody. It was 2005, I think. So once I graduated with my thesis film, I was really lucky. I scored a job here.
That's great. So a lot of our listeners are either looking to get into the animation and or Pixar industry, if you will, the filmmaking industry. Can you give any type of tips or tricks for somebody looking to find their way to a layout position or Pixar, if there is some type of, for the layout department, how that would benefit that? That was a long-winded way to get there.
Yeah, it's really just being in love, with the craft or the niche of whatever it is you're trying to apply for, right? And if it happens to be camera work, it would just be a matter of either creating a short film or shooting of a live action film, or just exposing yourself to how do you tell a story through the camera? How do you stage characters, and basically developing the film language, the vocabulary that we've seen in so many other movies growing up, is like understanding why the directors made that decision, or why a director of photography decided to stage a shot a certain way. And basically what we're looking for is somebody where you can just feel that passion is coming through in their work, in the sense that they're really trying to support a story through the camera, through their film language, through the staging choices. And we're not, if you're applying for a layout position, we're not looking for great animation. We're just looking for some decent blocking. It's not like we're looking for you to be great at shading
right. Yeah, absolutely.
a car. Like that
right.
That's not really a skill set we need. We need someone who is really just focused on and is in love with like basically camera and storytelling.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd say that from my experience, school was really helpful in the sense that it gave me a foundation, and like I think film history is really important, just understanding how other people have worked and why they made those decisions, and working on a film set even a commercial or whatever you can expose yourself to surround yourself around that, the craft of filmmaking would really help in layout. Because like I mentioned before, layout definitely, you're working with a lot of different departments to bring it all together, but in the end, you're setting up a shot in a moment. And I think exposing yourself in the live action sense could also apply to a computer animation.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, I certainly appreciate the time, Mahyar, and I really did get some great insights, and I feel like it's going to help a lot of others of our listeners just get a better sense for yet another department within Pixar, another important department that's working so closely with so many others that are out there. That's great. All right, well, there you have it. That was an interview with Mahyar Abousaeedi from the layout department at Pixar. And certainly thank you again for taking the time, Mahyar. It was so enlightening to hear about all that. And I think if there was one thing that both of us totally connected with the interview, it was when he talked about Ellie in the backyard.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I love when obviously we get those insights into the films, not just because we're hearing insights to the film, but because you're really getting a sense for the thought process of what happens in that department and, how they really decipher and think through. And it's not even just there was a problem. He just felt, boy, this feels more personal than the front porch. So let's move it to the backyard. It's more enclosed. It's by that tree that represents life. And it was just, man, hearing all that, I was just, like I said, I hate to sound cheesy, but I had legitimate chills when he was saying that.
No, it was, it was really thoughtful, I guess is how I would say it. I feel like he really, I don't know, thought a different way. And it was just really beautiful. And another thing that I was really excited for is I was actually a part of this interview.
Oh, yes. So go ahead, talk about it.
It was a long time coming.
Yes.
Since the birth of our son. So I was so excited to actually be a part of the interviews again and on it and to ask questions. Now, granted, when I got on the interview, I was so excited and so enthralled by what he said that I only asked one question and I kept passing TJ my questions. I'm like, I'm just listening. I couldn't even think to ask questions anymore. I just wanted to be in the audience. So I kept passing TJ my questions. I'm like, just ask. I'm having too much fun listening.
Right. And we're communicating all this via eye motions. So it was really fun. So as
excited as I was to be part of it, I only asked one darn question because I was really enjoying it sitting in the audience.
Yeah, for the last 3 that we've done so far, the first 3 that we did, it would always worked out that it was right in line with our son's feeding time. So it was like one of those things where it was like, oh, well, I'll be downstairs. And
yes.
And then this time it worked out. We your mom was willing to help out. And
yes, so Grandma, he went to Grandma's house, so that worked out.
So that was cool. So anyways, one of the other things I really loved too is I could tell that he put a lot of thought into his response for, when we mentioned a lot of our listeners, might be interested in getting to Pixar and, or just in a layout department at an animation studio. And what are some of the things that are required for that position? There was a lot of great detail there. I mean, obviously, I think it kind of bookended the interview great, where it talked about here's the day in life at the beginning. He went through all those details. And then at the end of it, it was kind of, here's what's really going to be needed if you want to get here as well. And it's obviously not plain as day. It's not follow step A to Z and you're there.
Right.
But it was just great hearing the passion and some of the tips. And it's not about having a polished animation reel if you want to be a layout. It's about basic character blocking and understanding the basics of film and why a director chose a certain angle, what they did, all those kind of things. I just thought that was really interesting. And I mean, obviously, again, we're just, of course, grateful that he was willing to take the time and impart that information to us. So thought that was great. So again, thank you, Mahyar, and be sure to stay tuned next month as we'll have the next iteration of the Pixar Pipeline Project interview.
Yes.
So we're very excited for that one. Well, that about wraps up episode 30 of the Pixar Post Podcast. Of course, be sure to follow us on all of our standard social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Vine, Pinterest, YouTube, Google+, and subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and or Stitcher, whichever is your favorite.
Flawless.
Nailed it this time. Last time I screwed up on one of them.
You were a little wonky last time.
Yep. So lastly, if you like the show, let us know about it. Rate us on iTunes, leave us a comment, or send us an email and let us know what you thought. And Julie wants to know about Peter Sohn.
Yes.
She wants to know if he's going to voice something, if you think he's going to be a voice in Toy Story That Time Forgotten.
Yes. Let me know. Tell me what you think, you guys.
Yeah. So, like I said, get ready for next month as well. We're going to have another great interview. But signing off as usual, I'm TJ.
And I'm Julie.
And be sure to stay tuned to PixarPost.com all week for the latest Pixar news.